First tonight at 6 o'clock, a Target 8 investigation.
You most likely did your digging before you picked a daycare. It's a lot of research, but we all need a safe place for the kids while we're at work.
Target 8 investigator Marley Ginter is uncovering a loophole in state licensing that could keep daycare dangers hidden from you.
That's right, Brian and Sue. We took a hard look at home daycares, discovering an alarming number of serious violations. More than 200 had their licenses yanked in recent years, but enough time has passed, so now many can reapply. But get this, if they are allowed to reopen, you may never know the state had once shut them down. Layvonne Westbrook wanted her baby in the closest thing to home when she had to leave for work.
I found something that was within 5 to 10 miles away from my home, so I thought that was pretty convenient.
We talked with the Michigan mom over Skype after she left Flint because of the water crisis. But Layvonne's nightmare started long before that, when she lived in Georgia 8 years ago. A new mom, she went with a home daycare for her 2-month-old Quale, mainly because of the price.
I met the lady one day and I asked her if she was CPR first aid certified. I saw her with other children.
But on only his second day at daycare, Layvonne got a phone call. Little Quale wasn't breathing.
And they opened the door and I saw my son on the floor with a blanket over him.
She thought she'd done her homework, but she didn't know everything about the daycare provider's past. Target 8 discovered you may not know everything about yours either. In the last 10 years, nearly 40 children have died in Michigan daycares. Majority of them 85% were at the smaller in-home daycares. 15% were in the larger centers. Mark Jansen is the director of the State Child Care Licensing Division. He says every type of child care facility has its pros and cons.
There's education involved. They have to have different training than somebody in a home. So I think everybody has to ask themselves, which do I prefer?
Considering the higher number of deaths, Target 8 pulled state records of all the home daycares that have had their registrations or licenses revoked over a 5-year period. We found nearly a dozen deaths, many babies who weren't monitored while they were sleeping. A common thread, an appalling lack of supervision. Children found wandering along busy streets. In one case, the provider left the kids in the car while she went and got her nose pierced. We're talking about 250 plus providers with what the state considered severe violations. But that didn't mean they couldn't get their licenses or registrations back. Many could reapply after 2 years. In fact, Target 8 uncovered 4 back open right now. We brought that to the state's attention. They confirmed 3 are relicensed, but told me they couldn't definitively confirm the 4th provider. But Target 8 cross-checked that provider's birth date and address, and they matched. What's not clear, did the state know it was relicensing the same daycare provider it had shut down before?
They have, if they're on central registry, if there's some things like that, they would be rejected because of that.
Now, in these cases that I found, though, people were not rejected. They have their license again.
Okay, and I'd have to look at the details, but it would depend on a lot of different variables.
Jansen says licensing consultants consider the provider's history, what was in the original investigations, and the severity of the violations.
There might have been opportunity for them to get another license. There might have been reasons that they said, okay, they've corrected the issues and they're going to now watch them more often. I mean, there's different opportunities in that process.
A state investigation showed one of the revoked providers had an adult male living in the house who'd been convicted of a felony assault with a weapon. The home also had a history of domestic violence. The provider was deemed not suitable for children, their supervision or protection. But Target 8 discovered once she reapplied, she got a new license number, basically a fresh start in the public database you would use to research a daycare. There's no indication that they had their license revoked in the past.
We would have that in our information. We have a database system that would have said provider X was revoked on this date, and then there were some details that would have gone with that.
But parents doing their research wouldn't see that.
Right, there would be I'd have to double check and figure out what we actually do show up, what does show up.
And that should not be happening.
Layvon still doesn't know how her baby died at a Georgia home daycare. She didn't find out until later that the provider had a history of child abuse. The medical examiner ruled Quale's death inconclusive. She's now a national advocate pushing for stronger home daycare regulations. And after we told her what Target 8 uncovered, she set her eyes on her home state, Michigan.
If I can do everything that I can humanly do to make sure that I can try to get change to happen, and it has, slowly, but it has, and I still have work to do, then I've done my job, and my son's death was not in vain.
A determined mom for sure. We have already gotten responses to the story from home daycares in our area, and these are some of the tips that came in. Always ask to see the provider's notebook. By law, every daycare has to have all of their past inspections readily available for you. But in order to truly get the full picture, you'll need to request the documents under the Freedom of Information Act. And keep in mind, the state has a right to charge fees, ask for an extension, or deny certain records.
What an eye-opening report, Marley. Where are those daycares that were allowed to reopen?
Well, I did know that we found one in Ypsilanti, one in Detroit, none in West Michigan that were reopened. But this is something that's an ongoing thing. We'll definitely want to keep checking in to see which daycares have been shut down in the past, now reopened, that people at home wouldn't know about.
I mean, it's a working parent's biggest fear.
It is.
I mean, how safe are your kids?
Exactly.
Marley Ginter, thank you.
Marley, thank you. Coming up tonight, we spent months looking at daycare deaths and uncover what's causing them and how you can help keep your child safe. The investigation stems off of the Cooper Fales story, the baby found dead in his carrier after leaving a daycare. It is a Target 8 investigation. You'll see that tonight at 11.